Today on Rum and Boats, we're just about halfway through grinding all of this. That side's almost done. This is what we started with. Once the floor and the core was removed from this boat, we're left with wild high spots, low spots, delaminated spots, just terrible fiberglass work in general. And this is crazy amount of grinding to get to where we need to be so we can lay up a fresh layer of fiberglass mat in this boat. Then figure out a new system for the core and the stringers and really make this boat rigid and ready to rock and roll. This side, I've just about got ground out. It's shaping up pretty well. Go ahead, take a look down here. Now, here is one of the two-sided repairs we found. And of course, it did not laminate well. So before I put a layer over everything, we're gonna have to fix this. And the other one is right up here. And this one, you can see the matting never really even got wetted out. Can you see that white matting there? That's a repair from the bottom side. Likely leaked and led to the rotting, even though it was going to rot all on its own. So we've got to get the whole thing looking like this, maybe a little better, and sand it, and we can start laying up glass. The other terrible trouble is some of this floor that was laminated to the center of the boat didn't really laminate well, so kind of rip it up before we grind and sand. This is just not a fun process, but it's what has to be done. Every day's for boats. Up here, it was real obvious that the plywood lamination was coming up. So I took a chisel and chewed most of it up, and the same was true over here. And so we've got some real thin spots, but anything that's not laminated needs to be removed. Now, this is one of the one-sided repairs that we knew about. I'll get into that later when we're getting ready to fix it, how you dish it out and layer it up. But back here, it wasn't so obvious that some of this was delaminated until I started grinding, and it was a little different bouncy than the rest. Now this is probably, all the way, if you can see it bounce, that's in between layers. Anywhere there's air in there, you just can't have that. So I'm going to take the grinder and kind of come in around this area until this chunk wants to get removed. Anything you find that's delaminated needs to go. So as you can see, this whole area wasn't laminated. After I ground the edges down, this part came right up, and you can see this glass was never attached to the glass holding the floor down. Now here, it kind of turned a different color than most of where we're grinding. So you can tell this light spot was another air bubble. And we can't have any of that. You've got to find all of these that exist and remove them. Then we can sand this surface down and have a nice fresh glass surface to apply our new fiberglass to. Well, we got 90% of the grinding done on the hull and the inside of the cap of this boat. We're looking at where the transom goes here, and there's just a bit more touch-up work I got to do before we can start laying glass. And some bits, like back here, there was a piece of plywood acting as a core that went up to the bottom of the transom to tie all this together and keep it real tight. Well, this piece is just a whole bunch of resin that spilled down, and there's a large chunk of wood still down in there. It probably goes down almost a ½ an inch. So I have to get the die grinder and remove all of that from both sides and smooth this out. areas where I have to make repairs, where there were one-sided repairs and I ground through them, I have to feather this out further, a lot further really make kind of a dish so that I can start by repairing those. There's a bit of stuff like this where we've got low spots, probably were air bubbles. I have to get those scuffed, possibly fill them before I lay glass up on this whole hull. Here's a bit of a surprise. I've got to get this chunk out to replace the core in there so that this hook can be attached and be rigid. Probably add some other stuff up here. But I grabbed a hold of that nut that was on these washers. As soon as I started turning, it just broke because evidently we just used plain steel. I think it was a part of this too, which is just almost unbelievable. I don't think I'll be able to reuse it. It's odd though. Maybe these are actually threaded steel bits into this. Doesn't appear to be one piece. We'll see. I'd love to reuse that. I found a couple more trouble areas that need to be dealt with. And in order to really deal with them, I need to make a template for my transom first because I have to cut some of this stuff up. So I noticed here, there's a crack. It's on both sides. I don't know if that's from transom stress or something else. Maybe this got bumped. I don't know. But there's a crack here as well. And this bit isn't really attached to the transom. But what we've got going is the transom gets laminated to this and to the edge here, and that's where this crack is right here. Now I need this to be a two-sided repair. I just want everything thick and good. So I'm going to have to remove some of this just so I can get at that and repair it and then lay this all back up nice. Now on this side, it's the same, but worse. This side has a crack that's sort of split and you can see in it. And I mean it's just gone. That's no good. So I've got to do that on both sides. But before I do that, I'm going to make my transom template. So the transom really lays on this area at this angle. Down here, this is flat. And then we'll add some coring in here and fiberglass this all together just like it was. But first let's make the template. So I bought this $4 piece of 1/8" sheeting, and what I'm going to do is take a hot glue gun and cut this into the correct shape and make a really good template. I'm just going to hot glue pieces together so that I've got this shape before I remove this and can't get my shape anymore.